When you get to be my age, people often ask what the secret to a long life is. But what they really want to know, and what I want to tell them, is what I messed up. What did I leave undone? I regret many things, certainly, but there is one specific conversation that haunts me every single night. It wasn't about money or a grand adventure. It was just two simple words that I thought I had all the time in the world to deliver. Looking back now, after decades of silence, I realize that waiting for the right time is the most expensive mistake you can ever make. Time does not wait. And those words, once unspoken, become a crushing weight. The conversation I'm talking about was with my father, Michael. He was a good man, steady and hardworking, but he wasn't easy to talk to. Back in the 40s and 50s, fathers weren't supposed to be soft. Affection was shown by providing, not by speaking. And I, being his daughter, learned that same stubborn, silent language. We had a pride contest going, though neither of us would admit it. He thought I should apologize first for some long-forgotten misunderstanding from my 20s. I thought he should apologize first because, well, he was the grown-up. That childish argument lasted for years. We spoke regularly, of course. We talked about the weather, about his prize-winning tomatoes, and about my children, Nicole and David. But the conversation always skimmed the surface. It was pleasant, but empty. Every time I drove home from his house, I would beat myself up. Agnes, you had an hour. Why couldn't you just say it? The words were right there, resting on my tongue, but the fear of vulnerability felt stronger than the desire for connection. I was terrified of being dismissed. I was terrified of him not saying it back. That fear cost me everything, truly. It cost me peace. I remember the last Christmas Eve. He was sitting right there, where that little table is now, reading the newspaper. He looked tired. He was already sick, though we pretended he wasn't. I brought him a cup of coffee, and he thanked me, barely looking up. The house was quiet. I stood there, holding the empty tray, and I thought, this is it. I have to break the stalemate. I opened my mouth to say, Papa, I forgive you. Or even just, I love you. But the phone rang in the hallway, loud and demanding, and the moment evaporated. I let it go. I told myself I would call him the next day, Christmas Day, and say it then, when things were less chaotic. I often replay that scene in my head. Why did I let a ringing telephone stop a conversation that meant the difference between peace and everlasting regret? I went back to my own family, enjoyed Christmas morning, and put the heavy conversation off. We always think we have infinite Sundays. We treat important emotional conversations like they are chores we can postpone until the week is less busy. But those unspoken words, they don't spoil immediately. They just settle into your soul, getting heavier and heavier, until you realize you've been carrying a secret boulder for half a century. And the person you needed to tell it to is gone. Christmas Day came and went. I got busy with the children's new toys and the dinner preparations. I told myself, I'll call tomorrow morning before work. Then Tuesday arrived, and I was running late. I'll call that evening. The excuses pile up so easily. They are small white lies we tell ourselves to justify our emotional cowardice. But the truth is, I was just scared of the depth of that conversation. I didn't want the vulnerability. I didn't want the awkward pause that might follow. I preferred the safe, shallow routine we had established, even though it was slowly poisoning our relationship. Wednesday morning, the phone rang, and this time it was my brother. His voice was too steady, too quiet. He told me Papa had fallen ill suddenly overnight. I rushed to the hospital, praying the whole way. I made promises to God I didn't mean, just trying to buy 5 more minutes. But when I got there, he was already unconscious. He had hours left, maybe. I sat beside his bed, holding his rough hand. I tried to whisper the words into his ear. I love you, Papa. I forgive you. I'm so sorry. But he couldn't hear me. Those words, meant for a living heart, just fell flat in the quiet hospital room. He passed early that afternoon. I went home feeling hollowed out. At the wake, people kept telling me how much he loved me, how proud he was. And I thought, then why didn't he ever say it? But immediately the mirror turned back on me. Why didn't I say it? We waited for the other person to be the bigger one, and in that waiting, we lost everything. You bury the person, yes, but the real weight is burying the silence alongside them. It's a silence that follows you home, into your marriage, and into your parenting. That's what regret is, the constant echoing knowledge that you had the chance and you failed to take it. I spent the next decade being angry at myself. I realized that I love you or I forgive you isn't just for the other person. It's a gift you give yourself. Holding on to grievances doesn't punish the person who wronged you. It just poisons your own soul. If you are holding on to a grudge right now, or waiting for a specific person to apologize before you offer forgiveness, please stop. That person might be gone tomorrow, and the burden of that silence will be yours alone to carry. I am telling you this as a woman who has carried it for 40 years. It is not worth it. This whole devastating experience changed how I raised my children, Nicole and David. I became the parent who always said, "I love you," even if it was awkward, even if it was over a quick phone call about groceries. I forced myself to be vulnerable because I saw the cost of pride. I taught them that apologizing isn't weakness, it's maturity, and forgiving is necessary, not optional. If I could trade all the material things I've collected in my 84 years for just 5 minutes back in that kitchen on Christmas Eve, I would do it without hesitation. Nothing is more valuable than emotional clarity. You young people, you have the technology to reach out instantly. You have the cultural permission to talk about feelings. Don't waste it on shallow nonsense. If there is a conversation that needs to happen, if there is a debt of forgiveness you owe or need to collect, do it today, not tomorrow, not after your busy week. Pick up the phone or walk across the room. Say the words. Take the risk of being misunderstood or even rejected, because the alternative, the lifetime of wondering, what if I had just said those 2 small words? That is a far greater tragedy than any rejection could ever be. I am proud of the life I've built, yes, but that one conversation, the silence, it is the deepest wrinkle etched into my heart. Remember that love is an active verb. It requires speaking, even when it's hard. It requires putting down your pride and picking up the phone. Don't let your story end with the weight of unsaid words. Don't let your biggest regret be a conversation you never had the courage to start. Find your Clarence and tell them what they need to hear while they can still hear you. That is the true wisdom of old age.